Curtis Jones, though. Curtis Jones, the scouser in the team. What are we doing with him? What does Liverpool do with a Curtis Jones? Like, where does that go? What do you do with a player like that, right? You got a player who we know is committed to Liverpool, right? We know that he would rather stay at Liverpool his entire career. He is Liverpool through and through. We know this already. But you see, the manager, Jurgen Klopp, obviously gave him his debut. Didn't really see a place for him in the squad. Obviously, played under Steven Gerrard in the youth teams, was looking really good as an attacking midfielder, as a left winger, all of that kind of good stuff. But you see, when it now comes to Arne Slot, if you guys remember, if you remember the interview that, or press conference, should I say, that Curtis Jones did when Arne Slot first came to the club, and it was pre-season. And remember, not a lot of players were around because I think they were, some of them were still at the Euros. You know, I think it was like the Dutch guys, some of the English guys, I believe at the time. Anyway, I think Trent really. Um, we're still obviously away at the Euros, and obviously a couple of other players away on pre-season, etc., etc. And Curtis Jones obviously was there early pre-season alongside quite a few of the other, would I say, surplus to requirement players, right? So Jones was there. We all have this kind of euphoria, you know, in terms of Arne Slot's coming in. He's talking a good talk. You know, some people went away, watch YouTube, check to see what type of football does Arne Slot play with Feyenoord. There was all of these tactical videos. Everyone was gassed because we thought, yo, we're finally gonna see some real prime time football at Liverpool, right? That was gonna be the next best thing. It was gonna be almost like a Pep Guardiola, but he's mixed in with Roberto De Zerbi. He likes a bit of Klopp and he likes a bit of this guy. You know, he was talking the talk. Curtis Jones did the press conference, spoke about this is my style of football. This is the type of ball that I want to be playing. This is the kind of football that really resonates with me. This is not verbatim, by the way. I am adding a few words in here, but you get the kind of gist, yeah? You get where I'm trying to go, you know what I mean, with this. And to be honest with you, I also thought that this would be brilliant for Curtis Jones. This would have been something that, yo, Jones, because Jones for me, he's not a Klopp type footballer. Let's keep it a buck. Klopp is helter skelter, you know, 120 miles per hour, you know, down the M way. It's that type of football. It's fast, it's intense, it's a lot of running, it's a lot of hard yards, etc. That's not my type of football, and it wasn't Jones's type of football. So there was no real space for him in the team. There wasn't a position that I really thought, yeah, well, Jones is playing as like a left winger slash attacking midfielder slash striker, you know, for the youth teams. But that's the youth team. Where could he fit in? Could he replace a Mane? Well, no, because he just doesn't have the Mane effect, you know, really about him. Could he go into the midfield? I mean, what position realistically could he go into in the midfield area? Because you have got players like a Ginny, Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, James Milner at the time. These are all players who, you know, it's all about they're the engine room of the team, and you're not really a player like that. What you are, though, is a player who can calm things down, play at a little bit of a slower pace, and potentially even dictate the tempo of a game. But that's not the kind of football we were playing under Jurgen Klopp. So when he wasn't really getting, would I say, like the starts and wasn't really playing, for me at the time, I said, this guy gotta go. This is obviously before we found out Klopp was then leaving, but if we're going to continue playing like this and this is the way that Klopp wants to go, then Curtis Jones, he just can't play in this type of team, not even as a bench player, because it becomes useless at that point because the style of football under Klopp never changed. It was the same style from minute 1 to minute 90. You know, it was no different at any point during his career. So Jones doesn't fit into that. So, of course, you then start thinking, what do we do with him? You know, he loves Liverpool. That's very evident. I don't think anybody's going to question his love for the club and etc. But you know, forget all of that. He knows. Everyone knows. Football is a business. We ain't got time. Too many sentimental people in football. Sorry, guys. This ain't the 70s. This ain't the 80s. This ain't the 90s. We're in 2026. Ain't nobody care about that right now. Nobody cares. I promise you now, nobody cares. That's not what makes us money. What makes us money is selling players, buying players for this amount, selling them for that amount, winning competitions, doing really well in the leagues that, you know, we're competing in. That's what makes money. Sentimental stuff, yeah, we can have a little bit of that in there, but we can't do it too much like how we were doing it, you know, back in the day. Curtis Jones understands all of this 10 million times better than I do. Now comes on a Slot. Once Slot is in the building, you think this is going to be the time, for him to really cement himself in the team. Well, guess what? It's not the time, because Liverpool in his in Arne Slot's first season, they have Gravenberch, they have Zabozolai, they have Alexis McAllister. Jones can't really get into the team, comes in every now and again, then he gets himself injured. He can play his football, yada yada yada. And the worst thing about it, he can play his football. But we don't really understand as to why he's not really playing. But we kind of give the excuses, as we like to do, of, what, maybe it's just because he's been injured and he can't really stay fit and blah, blah, blah. So you're like, all right, cool. You know what? Maybe we can give him another try. This season, it's been the same thing. And I feel like with someone like Curtis Jones, with the way that he plays, and now he's being able to, or he's been able to play in right back positions. He's played as an inverted right back. He's played in DM. You guys remember the Euros where he played in that position. I think it was alongside Angel Gomez, absolutely brilliant in order to helping England win that tournament. Then he comes back to Liverpool. And again, this season, it's just the same kind of things. And we heard a little about there could potentially have been a bust up between the two, Arne Slot and Curtis Jones. Whether that's true or not doesn't really even really matter, because the reality is on the pitch, again, he's just, I would have thought, especially watching how bad Liverpool actually are, the kind of football that I thought that Arne Slot wanted to play, I felt that Curtis Jones was that. And I've said this multiple times before, guys. If he was at Manchester City, he'd be playing games. I don't know where he would be playing, but he'd be playing far more games. And I feel like he'd be a tad bit more important, because Pep Guardiola is the greatest manager of all time. So he could, if anyone can make it work, you can maybe trust this guy, right? But the reality is the type of football that he actually does play, I feel like it suits a Curtis Jones. A Brighton suits a Curtis Jones. Trying to think of just teams who like to play that style of kind of football. But in the Premier League, it's like, Brighton, Manchester City. I could have said Chelsea under Enzo Maresca kind of thing. I feel like that's your style. Do you know what I mean? Like you seem like you thrive in that kind of environment. You want to be able to hold on to the ball, just that little bit longer. You want to slow things down a little bit. You want to try and dictate tempo where you possibly can. The only problem is, I've said this again on numerous occasions, Liverpool don't possess a midfield that can play football. You are the guy who can play football. But ultimately, because you're the only one, it seems like you're the one who's getting kind of, would I say, stood out. If I'm being honest with you, you're the one that Arne Slot seems to be looking at and thinking, well, yeah, he's not really someone I need in that first team for whatever reason. Again, like I said, I have no idea what that reason is. Is it because of the bust up? Was there even a bust up? It could be many, many things. But I'm looking at it on the landscape, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, why would Jones stay? And I keep asking people these questions about a lot of the players at Liverpool, because obviously everyone's at different stages of their career and they've done certain things. And as we know, Jones has won, trophies with Liverpool, whether he's been a major part, a bit part, whatever. He's got the trophies to kind of show for it. He's got his Premier League title. He's got his, I think he's got Champions League. I don't know if he technically got that, got that medal. But regardless of anything, he's been here for a long time and it's his boyhood club. Now, you guys know me. I don't care about that sentimental crap. I really don't care. I'm always trying to look at what's the best thing for the player. Ultimately, the club will always throw you to the wolves. Trust and believe. If they don't feel like you're doing well, they'll throw you to the wolves. If they need to make money, they'll sell you. So why people care so much, that's obviously up to them. I'm not gonna, get onto you for that. When it comes to players, I'm always looking, thinking, what's the best move for a Jones or a Harvey Elliott or a Rio as an example? Like, what's the best thing that these guys and these kind of players, can kind of do? And for me, I'm looking at Jones and I'm saying, 100% you should be leaving Liverpool. There's no two ways about it. Staying at Liverpool, that's probably the stupidest thing that you could do for your own career. Now, Liverpool fans might look at that and think, no, but we need a scouser in the team. You don't need one, but it would be nice to have one. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Of course it would, because having that kind of local lad, the guy who kind of understands what it means to play for Liverpool and etc., those things are intangibles that are genuinely important, to a team, especially a team and a club like a Liverpool, in terms of just their own kind of makeup. But maybe Liverpool are going into this kind of new direction. It's probably about time Liverpool almost updated themselves as a football club and almost moved into this kind of new realm. I'm not saying you throw away those things. I'm not saying those things are not important, just to make sure that people listen with their ears rather than their mouths, right? I'm not saying that it's not important, but I also understand that Liverpool are a club that is or has been quite outdated in their terms of thinking and the stuff that they kind of do. It always seems to be behind everything else, and while other clubs, continue to move on and move forward in other aspects, Liverpool, for a long time anyway, wasn't really keeping up, in that kind of regards. Now Liverpool are in this kind of position now where they're a better club, they're in a better place financially on and off the pitch. They're in a better place in terms of the type of team that they have. They're in a better place in terms of the perspective of a Liverpool Football Club. These are the kind of decisions that they're going to have to make. Now, I'm not saying Kicker Jones out because I think he's a crap player. I don't at all. Like I say, the manager's anyway. But if we had a different manager, I might think a bit differently in terms of keeping a Curtis Jones, because I know what he can actually do in the right type of team under the right kind of tutelage from a better manager than, of course, Arne Slot. But unfortunately, it does sound like Arne Slot is going to stay here. So again, I ask, if I was Curtis Jones, what the hell are you doing here, my friend? Come on, buddy. This don't make no sense. You can do the loyal thing if you want. Like, ultimately, it's your career and it's your money. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, his contract ends at, I think it's 2027 anyway. So you could just sit here and just wait out the next year and play, don't play. It doesn't really matter. The World Cup will be done. You're not going to the World Cup anyway. So the reality is, by the end of next season, maybe you could, it's almost like just saying your goodbyes, at this point in time, and then moving on to like a new chapter, hopefully then getting into the England squad on a regular basis and etc. Players like Elliot Anderson and Morgan Rogers and all these kind of players, they've moved there way ahead of you in the England squad, and that shouldn't be the case. You should be in there, and you should be in there as well. You deserve to, in my opinion, in terms of, if I just looked at the style of play and the type of footballer that you are, you deserve to be there more than those guys. But guess what? They're playing really all the time. Now, some of them you can look at taking sideways steps or backward steps. It doesn't really matter. They're playing football. I've said this on many occasions. If you guys watch my Rio video, you'll know what I mean. It's about playing football. It does not matter the level. Obviously, we're talking about Premier League footballers, so they're not going to step down into League One or Championship. But when we're talking about being able to showcase what you can do, that's all that matters. And you don't have long to be able to showcase what you can do at that high level in order for you to get into these kind of things. Curtis Jones, you are at that point right now, my friend. You are at that point right now, and you need to start making these decisions. So you are at a crossroads, in my personal opinion, come the end of this season. Got the World Cup, pre-season, all those kind of things. You've got all of these things to think about. Now, of course, the manager might turn around and say, yeah, you know what, actually, you're a fixture on my side. You know what? I'm gonna sell such and such. Let's say, hopefully, he sells a McAllister and he says, I'll keep a Jones. Jones, you're gonna be the guy in the middle of the park alongside whoever. No problem. Then of course you just stay. But if we're just looking at it right now, as of today, I it's not happening. It's not happening. And for me, that means you gotta go. You gotta go. Liverpool gonna have to find someone else to be the local lad. Sorry, I know that might hurt people's feelings, and I know people care about that kind of stuff. But if I was Jones, why would I care? I got a career. Being loyal or have a career. Be loyal, have a career. Well, if I be loyal, I probably won't have the career that I probably feel that I deserve. But it's fair because I'm loyal, and fans will be happy because I'm loyal, even though they don't really care as to what I'm actually really doing, and they're just gonna moan on social media anyway, or they're gonna moan in the ground when I hold on to the ball for too long. And my guy, go and play some football, bro. Go and kick ball. Go and fulfill that potential that I saw in you when you was playing under Steven Gerrard. That potential, that Jones that I saw, I said was a bad boy. And I thought he was going to come into the first team under Klopp and do a madness. But we know Klopp was just stiff, and that was never going to change. I thought Arne Slot would come in. Now it's now been shown that he's also quite a stiff guy, and he likes things the way that he kind of likes things, and he's not really adaptable in that kind of way. Not a problem. Jones, keep it moving, man. Keep it moving, man. I want all players to just do what's good for you. I don't care about the team. I don't care about Liverpool in that kind of way. Do what's good for you. Stop worrying. And fans as well. Listen, I'm not saying that you're gonna be joyous that if he were to leave or anything like that. It's not about that. What it is about is understanding that not everybody can stay at your football club just because you want them to. Sometimes it's actually more detrimental for some of these players to stay because it hinders us actually getting better players. I don't want to do that. I want the best. I want the best, and I want the best standards. You ain't meeting that. Bye bye. Bye bye. You get what I'm saying? Like, bye-bye. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't really care about it because it's getting boring now. Standards, expectations, all of that have just slipped. Why? Because we allowed ourselves to allow it to get to this state. We allowed ourselves to let it get to this state, both the club and the fans. We allowed that. Fans not protesting at games because Arne Slot is still the manager. Yeah, we allowed that. Do you know what I'm saying? When you enable that type of behavior, what do you expect? Did you get what I'm trying to say? So, yeah, for me, Jones, if I was you, you ain't going to be listening to this. But if you was ever to listen to this, my guy, go and have a career, man. Go and have a career. Go and do your thing and enjoy your football. Just enjoy your football because I think you could become a very good player. That's just not going to happen at Liverpool. Let me know your thoughts, people, in the comment section. I'll catch you soon. Peace.